Hey guys, so a couple of nights ago, one of the feral cats we feed outside of our home brought up a dead rat or a dead mouse. It was pretty good size. It wasn't one of those large roof rats. But anyways, I've used this product from time to time. Whenever I know we start having rats, it's usually in the spring and the fall. And this works so great. It just involves two food products and it works every time. You don't have to worry about cleaning up messy traps or anything like that. And you don't have to worry about kids or pets getting into it. It's perfectly safe, but it works great on mice and rats, and I'll tell you exactly how it works. Now, the first recipe involves baking soda and Jiffy corn muffin mix. You can use any brand you want to, but the cornmeal mix will not harm the rats, but it will attract them to our trap. We're going to take something like an empty container where we can either cut a hole in the side or the top, depending on the size of the mice or rats you have. If you have a large rat, you're going to want to use something maybe even larger than this, but we're going to cut a small hole in it so another animal won't get in there and eat it, like a dog or a cat. It's not likely they would, and it definitely wouldn't hurt them. It might just give them a lot of gas. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep the solution, the recipe, dry and away from rain and other animals, larger animals that might eat it, like a raccoon, possums, anything that might be around your house or yard. If you're putting these inside, you have that less of a problem. But I always just say put it in some type of container, cut a small hole in the side of it or the size of the hole the rats that you think you have or found around your house. So you're going to need some type of plastic container and these two items, and I'm going to explain to you. There's a big mistake that a lot of people make in mixing these two, and it's really a simple mistake, but it's a very wide myth that equal parts of the baking soda and the corn muffin mix is enough to kill the rats. But actually that's not true. You need to double up the baking soda because a 1-to-1 ratio sometimes will not work as effectively. So you want to do a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you're doing 2 containers, you might do a 1/4 cup of the Jiffy corn muffin mix or cornmeal mix, and then double the size of your baking soda amount. So you just want to remember that's a critical mistake that a lot of people make. Why does this work? I'm going to give you an exact explanation of how it works. And there's another big myth surrounding it, the baking soda portion. Now, the way this happens with mice is the baking soda reacts with the acid in the mice and rats' stomach, and it produces a large amount of gas. Now, there's a myth that says that the mice cannot expel the gas. That's not true. They can expel the gas, but because there's so much of it, it causes blockages and it eliminates the mice. So just remember that the key here is putting the right amount of baking soda. A lot of people have commented in other videos that I've watched and everything, and I've did some research. It sounds like the 1-to-1 ratio may not be the best. So you want to do the 2-to-1 ratio on baking soda 2 parts and whatever your attractant is 1 part. And you can use other things. And like I said earlier, I'm going to give you 20 different recipes to use that will work for mice. But just remember that is the key component, is the baking soda in this particular recipe. You want them to consume quite a bit of it, and that way they die quickly. And I know that a lot of people don't like the idea of killing mice, but when it comes to your family safety, your pet safety, even a pet could come in contact with a diseased rat or mice, and that could cause a big problem. If you've paid a recent vet bill, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about how much it can be to heal a pet that's been infected with some type of disease from rodents. So I wanted to give you a example of what happens. So this is just plain vinegar, kitchen vinegar, and I want to show you what happens when an acid comes in contact with just 1 tablespoon of baking soda. Now, as you can see, that when that hits the stomach, and it's of course mixed, a rat would not eat baking soda without some type of attractant mixed in with it. So that's the key, is that we're killing the rats internally. I prefer not to do that, and I'll show you some more humane ways to do it. But if you're afraid of mice getting into your food supplies, getting in contact with your family or your pets, this is the fastest way to do it, is with baking soda and some type of attractant. Now, before I go on to the 20 different recipes for 20 different ways to eliminate mice from your home or your garage, or in this case, my greenhouse, this is the most humane way to take care of mice. It's a live catch trap, and if you want to buy one of these, I'll put a link in the description. But it's the most humane way to take care of mice, but it's going to be a lot more work for you. You're going to need to relocate them at least 1/4 to maybe 1/2 mile away from your home, because as they populate and grow in their populations, they can eventually migrate back to your home, greenhouse, or garage, or whatever you're trying to eliminate the mice from. So like I said, I'll put a link to one of these if you're really one of those people that just hates the idea of killing mice, and this is a great way to do it. Now this has been a standard for me around the house and greenhouse for roaches and mice, and this is a sticky glue trap with wax paper attached to the top. You just remove your wax paper and put one of these wherever you're seeing mice, and it will catch. I've seen up to 7 mice caught on one of these boards at the same time, but you can make it even more effective by putting just a small amount of peanut butter right in the middle. So this is not a humane way to take care of mice, but it is a very effective way. So I'll put a link to these. You can buy these by the case for $20 to $30, and you get, I think, 50 to 60 per case, and they can last for years depending on how bad your mice problem is. Now, when it comes to rats, something like this may not be big enough, and even this trap, this live catch trap, you may have to go with a larger size. There's quite a few varieties of these, up to something the size of a wild boar and very large forest animals. So you're not really just this size. If you've ever known anything about live catch traps, they come in a variety of sizes. So I've been accused many times of rambling in the videos in the comment section, so I'm going to run through these 20 recipes as fast as I can and give you the easiest ones that I know how to make, in addition to the cornmeal mix. This next one is also using a detractant, which is peanut butter, 1 tablespoon, and 2 tablespoons of the baking soda. Mix them well together, put it in your plastic container depending on your mouse or rat size, and in no time at all, that peanut butter, the smell of it will draw them to it. So again, 2 to 1 recipe. We want to remember that because we want to make sure we're having a good potency on our baking soda. And as you can see, I've got a little friend here helping us with the video. Now the next recipe involves cocoa powder and plaster of Paris, which is not something I normally have in the greenhouse. I have used it before on making some molds in the past, but remember, we're doing, instead of a 2 to 1 mix on this, we're doing 1 to 1, 1 part plaster of Paris, 1 part cocoa powder. Put it in your containers, mix well, and it'll have the same effect on mice. Now this next food recipe has got to be one of the most simplistic you can use. If you have instant potato flakes, you can just put those in your traps, and the potatoes, when they're eaten by the mice, the potatoes will expand in the stomach, cause blockages, and eliminate the mice that way. I don't normally like instant potatoes or the potato flakes, whatever you call them, but that's one thing. If you have that in your kitchen, just put that in a small container somewhere where you're seeing mice, and that will eliminate them very quickly. Now, not everybody has the cornmeal mix, so again, this is another simple recipe. It's 1 part of each, 1 part of flour, 1 part self-rising flour, the flour that expands when you cook with it, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. Now, many kitchens have those 3 ingredients. Mix them together, put them in your container, and when the mice eats them or the rat eats it, it will eliminate them as well very quickly. Now, I've always got some kind of project going around the house or the garage with cement powder, whether it's Mason's mix, quick dry cement, but you're going to do equal parts of cement powder and oatmeal, mix it 1 to 1, and put this in a small container as well. You want to make sure that this stays absolutely dry, because once the cement powder becomes wet, this is just a useless thing to do. So this is something you do in your garage, your basement, or in here where it stays relatively dry, the greenhouse. Now, as I mentioned before, this is the great attractant for mice because of the smell and the taste, and mice will absolutely love it. But you can also mix it with plaster of Paris in equal parts, 1 and 1. I do sometimes, if I don't have some of the other ingredients, I'll just mix plaster of Paris if my wife's working on a special project, which we don't have very often. But when we do, I can mix up a batch if we're seeing mice in our garage. 1 to 1 plaster of Paris and cornmeal mix. Now, a friend of mine had rats in his crawl space, and he was absolutely petrified to go in there because 1, he hated spiders, and 2, he really hated large rats. So this is a really simple recipe. You take some very thick peanut butter, preferably the crunchy kind that's really thick, and mix it with your cement powder. Roll it on a wax paper sheet or whatever you have on your counter. Roll it well and mix it 1 to 1, and then toss them into a crawl space, and that also works well. Of course, you want to make sure that you don't have any pets that get in there, because the cement could cause a problem for a pet. But he had a locked crawl space that was filled with rats, so this worked great for him. I think the rats were gone in less than 3 days. Now, when I was growing up, we always had either strawberry or chocolate Nestle's Quick, and I absolutely love it to this day, and that's why I don't buy it, because I'm way too fat. But anyways, if you take 2 parts of either the chocolate or the strawberry, 2 parts of this, and then 4 parts of the baking soda, and put it in your container. I've doubled it up because I really want you to understand that you need a really strong attractant, and sometimes chocolate or the strawberry mix is not quite strong enough in smell. So when you double up that, it will attract them a little bit better to our deadly component, which is the baking soda. Now, our next rodenticide involves mixing sugar with almost pure borax powder. This is 99.9. Now, you can buy borax in the washing powder, and I've had a little bit of trouble finding exactly what the boric acid content is in that. So I just recommend buying this online. Again, everything I'm talking about will be in the link in the description, things that you can't find at your local grocery store. But this very pure boric acid powder will work great when you mix it with a 1-to-1 sugar ratio. Now, for as long as I can remember, everybody knows that rats love cheese, and this one involves a powdered cheese or a very, very finely grated cheese. You want to take 2 parts of the baking soda and 1 part of a very finely grated cheese or a powdered cheese, mix it, and again, put it in your small container and make sure that it's out of reach of your pets, because although it won't hurt them, they will get a lot of gas from consuming that much baking soda. Now, the next way to use the borax is using a very thick syrup, whether it's pancake syrup or any type of syrup you might have in your kitchen. Mix it 1 part of the boric acid in 2 parts of the syrup. Mix it together and put it in small cap containers, or you can smear it on a piece of cardboard, whether they're under your kitchen appliances. You can easily slide that under there. They'll eat it and it'll have the same effect on them by eliminating them quickly. Now, if you have any of the small marshmallows around your house, you can also mix that with plaster of Paris. Put it in a container like this and shake it well where the marshmallows are coated with it. And you can also toss that into a crawl space. Remember, keep it out of reach of your pets or children. But that's another thing that you can use, is just common little tiny marshmallows. Rats and mice love anything that's sweet like that, and they'll go for it right away. Now, another way you can use your boric acid powder is you can mix it with any type of honey and make it into a very sticky paste. Use bottle caps or any type of container that you can slide easily under appliances, or put inside of a container like this where it's safe, where whatever size rodent you have, make sure you cut a hole in it, or the top where it can get in quite easily, and remember, out of reach of pets and children. Now, another simple recipe involves pancake mix and your cement powder. Mix equal parts there carefully. Throw it into a crawl space up under your appliances, wherever the pets or children can't get to it, and that cement paste will work wonders with mice, and especially the larger rats that are a little bit harder to get them into a trap. So another thing you can use with your cement powder is do equal parts of the cement powder and the sweetened condensed milk. That's a really sticky substance, but super sweet, and rats and mice will eat it extremely quickly, and it will eliminate them as well. Now, recently I made a video about using a 5-gallon bucket to catch quite a few rats, and it's a pretty simple setup there, and I'll put a link up above to show you how to do that. But this video was mainly about using common kitchen items that you can mix that will eliminate mice and rats. This last product is one that I use as a last resort, because I don't really like using any type of strong pesticide, or in this case rodenticide. But this is a very large container of rodenticide, and it will work on any size rat, even a large rat, some of those that you hear about in the southern part of Asia, but those are kind of scary to even think about. But something like this will contain maybe over 100 blocks of rats. So if you have a severe rat problem, let's say you're in the restaurant business or you're in a warehouse business and you just have continual rats, this is the simplest way to get rid of them. But you have to remember, this is toxic to people and pets. So guys, I want to say thanks so much for watching, and I have my little helpers here helping me. If you have noticed that, these are some actually refrigerator magnets that I bought just to irritate my wife, just to kind of play a joke on her. But anyways, mice and rats can be dangerous if they have diseases, and so even though I hate the idea of harming any type of animal, sometimes you have to eliminate things that could harm your family or your pet. So guys, I want to say thanks much for watching. And I also want to say, if you have a question about this video or any previous video, please become a public subscriber first and then leave your comment. And that's the way I filter all my comments, so I can go back, because I get so many each day that I just can't spend that much time answering 200 to 300 comments a day. But if you'll leave a comment under a subscriber heading, that way I can get back to you as quickly and as accurately as I can. So guys, have a great day.